Are you attractive? This season is earliest summer, the time of the Maiden Archetype growing into the Mother Archetype. The Mother Archetype is attractive. She has the power to attract what she needs to create that which she intends. We're not talking about only young women here. The archetypes of woman, maiden, mother, queen, wise woman, holy woman, and so many more, all live within each woman from birth to death for her entire life, no matter her current age. The maiden in you is for herself, exploring and experiencing, free to find out what she likes, what she wants. As she learns what she likes, what she feels drawn to, what she wants to see more of in the world, she begins to evolve and grow into the creative mother archetype, the creative one who brings something forth for the world. Once you have determined, as a maiden, what you want to do with your time, what you think is valuable for you to create, you begin to move into the mother archetype, the one who joins with something, who commits to something, an idea, perhaps, or maybe a person, so that you may bring forth something new in the world, be it new life in the form of a baby or a new company or a new book, anything you feel is valuable to bring into the world. This spring to summer season is Mother Nature's way of reminding you that each moment can be new, that she is there for us, encouraging us, no matter our age, as long as we are alive, to create anew for ourselves and for those we love, be it our family or even all humanity. This is the season to join with, to commit to mate with something so that you can create something new in your life. It could be a big thing like a baby or a new company of yours, or a book you are wanting to write, or perhaps you are wanting to purchase a house. But it can also be something quiet, something internal, something intangible, like greater peace or tranquility in your life. Your new creation that you wish to birth into your life may be simply learning how to slow down and smell the roses. This is the creative season. So what do you want? It's your creation. And once you decide, what do you need to join with, to commit to attract it? If you wanted to attract more peace in your life this year, you might commit to or marry the idea of setting up a special corner of your house for a half hour of comfortable meditation every day. The mother archetype is attractive. She attracts a man with whom to mate if she wishes to create a baby. She attracts a set of ideas in the research and perhaps a publisher if she wants to write and publish a book. She attracts, she joins with or commits to a set of investors to create a public offering. She attracts or joins with a recipe and ingredients and her stove to create a batch of baked cookies. She attracts a quilting circle to make a group quilt. Whatever a woman wants to create, she must attract, commit to, marry, or join with something to get it going. Every creation of woman starts with, at the very least, the mating with, the attraction of, the joining with a lovely idea in her heart, a sacred thought in her mind. So what stands in the way of this attractiveness? Attractiveness is magnetic, so anything that demagnetizes your being will stand in the way of you creating what you want. One common thing is complaining and general disgruntlement. Nobody is attractive when they are constantly complaining about life in general. Attractiveness, and of course, we're not talking about being good looking, we're talking about being attractive, having the capacity to attract what you want. Attractiveness requires a joyful heart full of gratitude. Another thing that will get in the way of creating what you want is allowing yourself to be distracted. Because a woman cannot be attractive when her focus is scattered and divided constantly, when she's always trying to do two or more things at once, when she never gives any one thing her full attention for very long. Attractiveness requires your attention. But by far, the biggest thing that stands in the way of being attractive is refusing to see who you really are, living a denigrating myth that was handed to you by your parents, your teachers, your culture, because they didn't know any better, because nobody taught them. To be more attractive, we must see who we really are. We must see the negative myth that we may be unconsciously living. And we must consciously choose a greater and better story, an epic myth for ourselves. The word myth has come to mean falsehood. We have the Mythbusters on TV who supposedly tell us the truth about fake stuff. We have common phrases like, it's a myth that you can have it all. But myth doesn't really mean falsehood. The word myth comes from the Greek mythos, which means story, saga, or tale delivered by word of mouth. It did not originally mean something necessarily false. It was a story told and passed down orally, an oral history. The stories of human myth may not be factual always, but they are true. They are truths in story form of the evolution of humanity, with all of its challenges and triumphs. Many early myths that rightfully honored woman as powerful and good leader, as creator, as giver of values to civilization, were rewritten when patriarchy arose thousands of years ago. The myth of the goddess Sekhmet was originally that she was a great and compassionate creator goddess responsible for healing and all manner of goodness for humans. It was only much, much later that the myth of Sekhmet being an out-of-control, bloodthirsty, raging maniac that had to be stopped by the male god Ra using trickery, it was only much later that that story was created to put her down. This new myth taught both women and men that women were crazy and dangerous, and that men, for the safety of everyone, had to control women. And that's still the falsehood that Wikipedia reinforces today if you look up the name Sekhmet. The myth of Pandora was originally that her box, well, it wasn't really a box originally, but it was a pithos, a jar. The original story was that her jar contained gifts for humanity. Her name literally means the one who bears all gifts. Later, patriarchal stories were created that turned the gifts into evils and then blamed Pandora for releasing them onto the world. This was the precursor to the patriarchal myth of Eve, also blaming a woman for everything. These patriarchal myths are only true in the sense that they reveal that thousands of years ago, men became fearful and envious of woman's power, and so created new myths blaming her for all bad things. All the original earliest stories are of a wonderful great mother who brought forth all life and gave all bountiful blessings. But men began telling misogynist stories as a way to put woman's power down. These are patriarchal reversals of truth that have for several thousands of years conditioned each generation of woman to think of ourselves as less than, not the heroic one, not the epic savior, not the one to count on. Think of all the ancient heroes of legend, all the great myths we were taught in school. They are almost all of men. Hercules, Orpheus, Jason, Theseus, Achilles, Alexander the Great, Lincoln, Napoleon, Jesus, Julius Caesar, Einstein. Of course, as we women remember woman's true history, we are changing this. But still, Children in school learn vastly more about men and their great deeds than women and theirs. 85-1. Woman instead is presented as the one to blame for everything gone wrong, the small one, the one who does insignificant drudgery and work, the unimportant one, the second sex, the worker, not the initiator or creator, the one who does what men tell them to, not the authority, not the leader, not the one in charge, never the hero of myth, usually the one to blame, the weak, useless one, or worse, the evil one. The most common insults are those that just point out that someone is like a female or like something associated with a female. You throw like a girl, you run like a girl. Pussy, douchebag. Why is douchebag an insult? You know why. Because women use douchebags. There is an old saying that given enough time, every word identified with woman eventually in language becomes an insult. Think about that. Every word that is associated with woman in language eventually becomes an insult. That is the myth women are growing up with. That is the myth women are living with today. And this is the myth we must counter with truth, with a true myth, with a true story. Women are the heroes of life. As a woman, we have never been taught to think of ourselves in mythic and grand terms. But I ask you now, what is giving birth if not the most epic thing ever? What heroic man can create a whole new human being and bring forth that being from his own body, from the spirit world into this world? If that is not the stuff of legend, I do not know what is. What is heroism but creating, raising, nurturing, and feeding a living being for nearly 2 decades, or maybe several of them more often, in an environment not only of lack of support, but active opposition and oppression? Mothers are entirely heroic, legendary. What is mythic boldness? What is daring, courage, and heart? What is fearless fortitude? What is spirit and valor? What is prowess and intrepidity, if not a little girl growing up in an entire system and culture that tells her how small she is? Somehow, that little girl manages to grow herself into a woman who creates, who lives, who bravely goes forth every day to make her way in that world in spite of all she's been told about herself. Is that not the definition of a hero? The Oxford Dictionary says, yes, that a hero can be a woman or a man, and their definition is a person who is admired or idealized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. But then the further definitions right below it are all brave man, man of courage, great man, man of the hour. I say women are the true heroes of history, and we are here to stand up for women and admire them for their courage, their outstanding achievements, their noble qualities. We are here for brave women, women of courage, great women, and women of the hour, and the hour is now. Our real mythos as human beings is this: we are come here to this realm called Earth as an expression of the one there is only one of, the one consciousness, to enjoy life's beauty and to further life's goodness through our unique vision, our perspective, our creative talents. That's the essential, truest myth for spiritual women, the myth we choose to live by. But most women have been conditioned to live out other, more degraded myths. The myth of the second sex, women as underclass, never able to get ahead, always oppressed. Remember, though, a myth is not a falsehood, it's a story. And woman, as an oppressed class, is not necessarily a false story, as we see it happening all around us. But we cannot move past that into creating something new and fresh and better until we change our myth for ourselves as individuals. As I was growing up, the myth my beloved mother transmitted to me was, men are far more powerful, important, and needed than women. They are the authority over us, and we must please them or suffer terrible consequences. I was trained in the myth of woman must please men in general, and certainly one single man, her husband, to have any hope of making her way in the world. And it took me 40 years to rewrite my own life myth to something like, I am come here to earth as a great queen to hold center for women everywhere, to remember their own great power of woman, to set things right again for civilization. There are so many other myths and stories that we women grow up with in patriarchy. These stories about women are false in that while they are true for millions of women, they don't have to be true for us as individuals. Here's one. I am a woman. With rare exceptions, only men can make real money. I will likely never be rich. Worse, as a woman, I will probably always struggle financially, unless maybe I marry well. There are many myths that are stories told about both women and men, and we see them reflected in our little homilies and platitudes. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. This is a story, this is a myth about why, if you're born into a poor family, you will likely stay poor your entire life. Here's another one. Nice guys finish last. This is a myth. This is a story about why we all must toughen up and be hard, because being too nice, compassionate, or gentle will certainly make you a failure. Here's another one. Money doesn't buy happiness. Well, this is actually true. It's a myth, it's a story about several things, about how you can or should accept being poor, because having more money won't make you any more happy. But it's also a story about the reality that we all need much more than money to be truly happy. Here's one. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. This is a story about not complaining about how hard life is, about how you should just take your lumps, accept what this culture dishes out, and quit your whining. There are good myths or stories that some of us are fortunate enough to be told by our parents or teachers. You can be anything you want. But for every positive myth a child hears, and I did hear that one as a child, thank heavens, but for every positive myth that a child hears, they will hear 100 negative stories about themselves and their world. Each of us was raised with a set of myths, one or two looming the largest in your heart and mind from when you were a child. Take some contemplation time later on and consider what yours might have been and what you may think of them now. Let's think about rewriting any negative myths we may have lurking in our subconscious. And let's start with the phrase, I am come here to earth as a divine expression of the one consciousness to further life with my unique spirit, vision, and creative talents. I am living the myth, the grand story of, and then fill in the blank. If you think, well, I'm just a mom. No. I am living the myth, the grand story of mother to generations. Because that's what you are as a mom. You are the mother of generations. Your children will likely have children. They will have children. You are the mother to generations. That's epic. I'm just an old lady. How about, I am living the myth, the grand story of wise woman holding the thread of wisdom for humanity. Because that's what elder people do. They hold the thread of wisdom. So how is your life truly epic when you think about it? Maybe a young woman would think, well, I'm just a student. How about, I am living the myth, the grand story of a young woman at the beginning of life with all magnificent potentials unfolding ahead of me as I learn and grow. I'm just a retired woman. How about, I am living the myth, the grand story of a woman resting from her labors as she contemplates her next chapter of life. Your life is epic if you think of it as epic. And as you think of yourself as epic, that becomes the more powerful way that you walk in the world. As you walk in the world as a woman of good power, which is a queen, you silently bless and encourage all women everywhere to do likewise. As all women everywhere do likewise, the world returns to balance and beauty, to peace and prosperity. So let us all be attractive. Let us all commit to what we need to create and birth our next good thing for ourselves, for all civilization. We are truly epic beings living epic lives. Blessed be.